Welcome to the Healthy Home Show. I'm your host, Fernanda Furman, and Healthy Home Architect.
Hi, I'm Eric Furman, Healthy Home Contractor.
And today we're here with Udo Erasmus. We're so happy to have you on the show, Udo. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, I'm glad I get a chance to do this. Thank you.
And Udo has one of the most interesting and diverse backgrounds we have seen. We were reading his biography, and it's the list of jobs he has held in the past, I don't know how many years, but through his whole life, it's like so diverse and the list is so big, and it all comes down to the purpose that he has right now. And all worked out towards that purpose. And we're going to let him explain, because it makes more sense for him to explain to us where he came from and what is his passion, what triggered him to be this health advocate that he is right now.
Okay, so actually the reason why I had those jobs, so many different jobs, that was just a part of my life. And I did that because I wanted to know what it felt like to be a person who was doing that. And it wasn't like I wasn't looking for which job I wanted to do. I just wanted to know what it was like to be that kind of a person doing that kind of a job. And they usually lasted 3 to 6 months. Of course, there's a steep learning curve when you start. So by the time 6 months were over, I had learned at least the beginnings of it, obviously not all the fine detail. And then it was, okay, next, what's next? What can I do now? So that was, and that's part of a very much bigger mission that began when I was born during the Second World War in part of Poland that was occupied by Germany. My parents had come from Latvia and Estonia, German-Swedish background. Hitler and Stalin had signed a peace pact or a non-aggression pact, and Latvia was given to the Soviet Union, and part of Poland was given to Germany as part of that deal, except there was nobody from Latvia or Poland at the meeting. So we were in Poland. At the end of the war, we were refugees that were fleeing from Poland to Germany with the communists chasing us in tanks and trucks on roads that had only refugees on them, and the Allies were shooting at us from planes. They were using refugees, mostly women and young children, on horse-drawn wagons, farm wagons. They were using us as target practice. And then we got separated. My mother got out eventually. Her sister found out that she had left us behind because she couldn't handle 6 kids. And can you imagine what it would be like for a mother to leave her own kids behind? So, and then, so anyway, so her sister came back and found us, and we were reunited. And I guess that experience showed me what happens when people don't cultivate peace or love or contentment or cooperation in their lives when they have the luxury to do it. And by the time I was 6 and listened to people arguing about stupid things, I said, there has to be a way that people can live in harmony, and I'm going to find out how. And that's basically been my driver. It took me through science to learn how things work, through biological sciences to figure out how creatures work, through psychology to figure out how thinking works. And then there was still something missing. And eventually I got to self-knowledge, because I really needed to know who I am, what I'm made of, and how I work. And so my different jobs were part of that journey to try and understand how things work. And frankly, I know how people can live in harmony. And it's actually very easy, because it's already built into every human being. The peace, the contentment, the love, the feeling taken care of. Once we spend enough time with ourselves to feel taken care of, to connect to that, then we don't steal each other's stuff, because we don't need more, because we already have everything. We were born rich, born with everything. And when we stop stealing each other's stuff, we can live in harmony. And when we live in harmony, it's not very difficult to make sure that 8 billion people's basic needs are met on a long-term sustainable basis. So that's basically the goal that I'm living into.
Wow.
Yeah. And as we were chatting earlier, as you get to know Udo more, you will see that there's a childlike, very pure spirit behind this wise gentleman here. And, you know, we were kind of redirecting the whole interview through what we were talking about. And one of the things you bring up is the house within the house. What is going on? Is this a perfect opportunity to talk about this? Because people are really in need, and that was the whole passion for us, is to help people. But maybe today, instead of focusing so much on the details of the house, let's maybe keep talking about this house within the house. Because I think one of the common themes that have come up and we were talking about is I myself and so many of us were looking outside of, you know, what paint should I use? What windows? What's this? What that? And really, it's what it's all about. And Paula Baker Laporte talks about this as part of building biology. Is how do you bring nature back into your life? How do you get that balance that we've survived as a species for so long back into our lives? Fresh air, sunlight, all these things that help us.
So when I heard about the possibility of this interview, I immediately said, you know, I want to talk about the house within the house. What is the house within the house? Well, I'm the house within the house. My body is my house. I live in the body. I'm not the body. If you think about it, you know, if I ask you, I point at your body and I say, whose body is that? Mostly people will say it's my body. So we already know we're not the body. You've just told me that you are not the body. You are the owner of the body. So who is the owner of the body that lives in this house? Well, life is the owner. How well do you know life? Well, not that well, because I never look inside. I never bring my awareness home into the energy that keeps me alive. So I don't actually know myself. So my thought was, as I started thinking about it, I said, you know, actually the dirtiest part in the house is the people living in it. And particularly the dirtiest part, not because we're by nature dirty, but because we're ignorant of the purity that we have, of the light that we are, of the peace that is our most basic foundation, of the love that is modeled by life, because life loves the body unconditionally, 24/7, 365, never takes a day off, never asks for a raise, never is mean to you. Even if you hate it, it still takes perfect care of you. What if in my house, within my house, I was actually living in touch with that, feeling the magnificence, feeling the beauty of that, feeling the fulfillment that was built into me at conception. It's been there ever since, but me looking away from it instead of looking into it. What if we sit in the house and get really still and just let go and see how still we can get and see how deeply still we can become and see how long we can stay there, and then discover what is the nature of our being in that stillness. And when we do that, when we get good at it, because it takes time to practice, because we're very good at going out, but not very good at going in. When we become good at going in so that we can go there at will, we literally can create any life we want, because then we feel so good and so taken care of that we want to prolong that state for as long as we can. And then, yes, it makes sense that you open the doors, front door and back door, in winter too, and get rid of all the air, in all the stale air in your house. And then it makes sense to go out and let the sunshine touch your skin, even go naked. You know, obviously you want to pick your spots, right? But sunlight on skin is very, very healthy. So hiding in your house and hiding from the sunshine is not natural. And then it makes sense that we would get the water that is dirty, stale, old, and poisoned that comes into our house through our tap. And then we put a machine on that tap that cleans the water, or that filters it, or that charges it, or that microclusters it, or that puts hydrogen and oxygen in the water, that makes that water fresh again. Then it makes sense, because 22 times more water will go through this body in my lifetime than food. 22 times. So clean water is actually more important than clean food. Because if the water was 1% damaged and the food was 1% damaged, we would get 22 times more problems from the water than the food.
Wow.
Then it would make sense to do deep breathing exercises to exhale, the carbon dioxide and the volatile toxins, metabolites, and bringing in more fresh oxygen. That would make sense when we feel taken care of. To build a house with non-toxic, like we used to use lead in paints, right? And then the kids would scrape the paint, and sometimes they'd eat the little flakes and stuff. Then it makes sense that we don't want lead in our paint. Then it makes sense that we spend time dancing without music, even just being in movement, moving lightly. That all makes sense, but it all makes sense from the purity of the house in the core of our being, because it's a natural extension of that. Our state of being determines everything, determines our perception, and it also creates our world. And everything that's wrong with the world, whether you're talking environmentally or politically or health-wise, we created that out of a state of being of disconnect from ourselves, of always seeing a problem and never seeing the wholeness. And we have literally imagined all our problems into being, because they didn't exist until we created them. And we created them by what we imagined as a problem or a what if, anxiety, or anger or depression. We created all of those issues. Your state of being comes to expression automatically. So if my state of being is peace, because I'm actually present in it, then I notice that peace has always already been everywhere, including on the battlefield, including in the house between the people who are arguing and beating on each other. Yeah. And so the peace is everywhere. It's outside of us, it's inside of us, it's between us, above us, around us, everywhere. Always has been, always will be. But we only know that. Only peace knows that. And so if I'm not in the peace that is part of me, I'm not going to see it anywhere else. So peace sees peace. But if instead of seeing peace, because I actually sit still long enough to find it, to find where it is within me, and I'm angry, then I'm going to look at the same world and I'll just see enemies. If I'm fearful instead of peaceful, then I'm going to see danger, right? So my state of being, whether it's emotional or like a deeper, more pure state of being, determines how I see the world. So it creates my perception, and it creates my world, because I cannot but bring my momentary state of being automatically to expression. So everything we've created that's wrong will not be fixed by us going out there and messing around some more with it and imagining more problems into being, but that we suck back to ourselves, discover that we have always had everything, comes with life, built in, loaded with it. And from there, when our state of being changes, our behavior into the world will change. And we will then create a world. We can create a world that works for everybody at the expense of nobody. including nature and including people and including animals, including everybody.
Wow. It is so powerful. Like, wow, so powerful. And
Yeah. So what if you are the light in your house? What if you are the light in the house that is your body, in the house that is your dwelling place?
Yeah.
And
Now that starts to make sense.
yeah, so from what you're saying, it creates a chain reaction, right? So you are the light, and the way and you see light, you influence people around you. Your house becomes a place of wellness because you inside of you
are well.
Your mindset is different.
Yeah.
And it's
but it's beyond the mindset, because wellness is beyond mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Because the mind works in duality. So you're either well or you're ill. In the light that is your life, that you are, that all the masters spoke about, by the way, if you're religious, you are that light. You are that wellness. And in the light, there is no darkness. Mm-hmm. And in peace, there is no war. It's absence of peace that leads to war. Mm. It's absence of light that leads to darkness. And darkness and light have never met. Because when there's light, there's no darkness. And when there's darkness, it's because there's no light. Mm-hmm. Right? And to take the peace metaphor, even on the battlefield where people are killing each other, peace is everywhere, inside of those people, around those people, between those people, everywhere. But their focus is not on the peace that is everywhere. Their focus is on an idea in their head that says, you're my enemy and I'm going to kill you. And the other person says, you're my enemy and I'm going to kill you. So in the midst of peace, we have a war. And that's how crazy we can get.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think these are great talking points and a fantastic introduction to even considering anything that we're doing, and very timely right now as we're quarantined, self-quarantined in our homes. Right. So much strangeness is going on right now. I mean, This is very helpful right now. So thank you.
Can I say something? What I've been writing on Facebook, nothing like if we're addicted to doing, that we get put in a position where we can't do anything and have to learn how to be. Because in the doing, we become smaller, and in the being, we become bigger.
Yeah.
If I do nothing, I become everything. The more I do, the smaller I come, because I have to set a goal, and the goal is already smaller than all the possibilities. Mm-hmm. And so to have this situation where, because of a virus that we haven't paid attention how to fortify ourselves against, and nobody's talking about that. We're just talking about trying to avoid the contact with the virus. Mm-hmm. That's okay as far as it goes. But you know what? We're getting the contact anyway. It doesn't take much. That's why in Italy it's going nuts. That's why for a while in China it went nuts, because you can't completely isolate yourself. You can't isolate yourself to the virus going out of existence. Sooner or later, maybe it's next year, maybe it's the year after, right? Why aren't we making the house in the house so strong that either it doesn't get sick from the virus, or if it does, it doesn't get killed by the virus. Or if it gets sick, it gets less sick, because we have built the house in line with nature. So we're talking about how you eat, what you drink, how you breathe, and weather light, because the entire house, this house, is made out of food, water, air, and light. That's it. Mm-hmm. All in line with nature is your best possibility of being able not to get killed by coronavirus, because the plants aren't getting killed by coronavirus. And the monkeys it came from, or the snakes, or whatever it was, they came from, the bats, whatever it came from, they're not getting killed by it. How come we're getting killed by it? Mm-hmm. And it's because, and to a large extent, I mean, the body's going to go one day anyway. So that's a given. But to the extent that we live in line with nature and our nature, to that extent, we have the best possibility of dealing with a virus that is apparently worldwide and may be worldwide for the next 1,000 years. But we're doing disease management instead of doing health care. Even though we call it health care, it's actually disease management. And so we're trying to kill the virus, and we're using poisons to kill the virus, and we kill we take the poison into our body to kill the virus. So now the virus is dead and we got poison in our body. How is that health to do it that way? But for instance, I use acid water to spray the back of my throat, pH 2.5. And I squirt it up my nose and then keep it there for 30 seconds. It kills viruses, bacteria, and funguses. Then I blow it out, and these are now viruses that are out of commission that can't get into my cells. I take digestive enzymes that are rich in protein digesting enzymes, because these viruses have protein coats. And the protease digests the protein coat off the virus. So I open the capsule in my mouth and swish them around in my mouth, make sure they go everywhere. And it kills as many viruses as it comes in contact with. Those are viruses my immune system doesn't have to deal with. And so if I can do enough of that, my immune system, the enzymes, by the way, also take a load off the digestive system, because the immune system, if digestion isn't working, gets involved in that, and then it's not as free to do its other jobs. So if I take a load off my digestive system, I improve the strength of my immune system to do the other work it needs to do. So the enzymes do double duty. They take protein coats off viruses, and they support digestion, so that the immune system is free to go after whatever viruses still make it into my cells. So, so that's just a couple of things. And then I eat garlic, because garlic fumes, as you can imagine, how bad they are when you smell them. Can you imagine how bad they are for a virus that is like teeny, 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 tiny? Right? So it's helpful to also protect me to some extent from the virus taking a hold in my lungs. Right? And then I do other things that have to do with energy metabolism and mitochondrial function, because energy is the healing power. Energy medicine makes sense, because anything that gives you more energy gives your cells more energy to do their specific jobs, including your immune cells, including your muscle cells. 40 to 60% increase in stamina. Omega-3s, if they're not damaged, will do that. And so anything that increases your energy and that takes toxins out of your body and takes a load off your body, whether those are metabolic toxins, or you're talking about lead in your paint on your walls, or you're talking about chemicals in whatever's made out of plastic and synthetics in your house, any toxins you get out of your environment and out of your body will make you a little bit healthier. So there's a place for trying to get rid of the bad stuff. But most important is making sure you bring in and build with the good stuff.
Yeah. So for some of you guys, and I'm sorry that we didn't introduce you correctly at the beginning. Udo, he brought the flaxseed oil into the market. He actually developed the machinery to do it. And it's a founder of the Udo's Choice oil, which is one of the oils that we love to use at home.
The fumes that come from frying foods are toxic, because you're burning oils.
Yeah.
Sometimes you watch the oil turn into smoke. Smoke is not good for your lungs, right? Whether you inhale it from cigarettes or whether you inhale it from a frying pan. Cooks who spend 8 hours a day in front of a frying pan get 4 times more lung cancer than housewives or house husbands who maybe spent 1 or 2 hours in front of the frying pan. And that's mostly from the fumes, the toxic fumes that come from frying. So I say to people, your frying pan, is the worst piece of equipment in the house. Your leaded paint is less dangerous than your frying pan. So you should take the frying pan out, hit yourself on the head with it really hard. So it's associated with pain, throw it out, and stop eating fried foods, and stop frying your foods with oil. It is the stupidest thing we have done ever to prepare our foods, because it is the unhealthiest. Fried oils fry your health, and fried foods fry your health. And all of them increase cancer, whether it's carbohydrates or proteins or the oil itself. When you fry them, they increase your risk of cancer, independent of each other.
Yeah.
Each one of them.
Don't fry, even just cooking, like, you know, putting oil in the food, like we don't fry the oil, but we cook with the oil. Like in the rice, I put rice and water and oil. Even that vapor will change the quality of the air.
Right. Yeah, it's better you cook your food in water and then add the oil afterwards when it's on your plate.
Yeah. That's
So that way your oil never gets overheated. Actually, it's the single more health problems come from damaged oils than any other part of nutrition. Worse than sugar.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah. And I actually, that's one of the things that I love with how your knowledge is so vast, and you actually got poisoned by pesticide before, right? I
did. Yeah. My marriage broke up and I wanted to kill something. So I took a job as a pesticide sprayer. and what do they say? Karma is a bitch. Uh-huh. Right. So what you put out comes back. You know, what you sow, you reap. And so 3 years after I started doing that, I got poisoned by pesticides. And that was that got my attention, because I realized the doctors couldn't help me. And I realized my health is my responsibility. And if I'm not taking care of it, probably nobody is. Mm-hmm. Because there's more money to be made on your sickness than on your health. So it is in some people's interest to keep you unhealthy, because then they can sell you pills and potions. If you're healthy, you don't buy their stuff. Then you basically support the farmer, the organic farmer, right? Yeah. So there we're creating a lot of toxicity on a daily basis in our kitchen by our cooking habits. So what I do I actually mostly eat raw foods now. The older I get, the more I like that. Mm-hmm. Works very well for me, and I use lots of spices and herbs. All parts stuff from nature. I don't take any drugs. I have never taken aspirins. I once took Tylenol because I got a kidney stone, and I took Tylenol 2, the strong one, for 2 days because it was so intense. Wow. And that's another reminder to eat in line and live in line with nature and my nature. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. So, but I don't use any drugs. I have no aches and pains in my joints. So I'm obviously doing something right. Yeah. I have brothers and sisters who don't live like me. They have some issues that they say come with age that I don't have, because they didn't come with my age. You know, we just get told, oh, it comes with age. No, it comes with age if you're not paying attention. It comes with age if you're eating out of line and living out of line with nature. It comes with age when you're doing things wrong, because the longer you do them wrong, the more it piles up on you. Absolutely. Right? So, and health is what we should be chasing, not absence of disease. Health is the presence of principles and components, and their absence leads to illness. And the cure of illness is go back to living in line with those principles and components, not throwing synthetic, man-made, patented, toxic side effect molecules at them. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, since you do have experience with pesticides, I was wondering if we can explore that a little bit more, because that was something we wanted to bring to the listeners. And I think you're going to be the perfect person to educate us on not just pesticides in the food that we're bringing home, but I would like to touch on that too. But we've talked to a few of our clients, and this was something that was brought to our attention. It was always something in the back of our head, but people that live next to golf courses or large areas of grass here in Southern California that need a lot of herbicides, pesticides, maybe even your neighbor's or hopefully you're not doing it to your own home, so all this information is coming out, is maybe walk us through why you don't want to be spraying your outside environment right around your home.
Well, the pesticides are molecules that were developed by human beings with no purpose other than to kill living things. So whether it's a herbicide for weeds, or an insecticide for insects, or a fungicide for funguses, or a bactericide for bacteria, whatever it is, it kills living things. And the chemistry and the biochemistry of living things, from microbes to humans, is similar enough that if they can kill your weeds, they're probably not good for you. The one that's gotten a lot of attention in the past few years is glyphosate, or Roundup, that Monsanto made. And Monsanto lied about it for 20 years. I used to spray it. And they had in the literature that they had with the pesticides, inactivated on contact with soil. Well, when I saw that, I was really happy. Wow, finally a pesticide that just does the job and then gets inactivated. And you know what? 30 years later, they took it out of their literature because the FDA made them do it, because they lied to begin with. It was never true. And it was never true, but they never got sued for it. They never got punished for it. And this notion that Roundup is inactivated in the soil is now part of the grapevine. You know, folk wisdom, folk stupidity, right? Yeah. And now everybody thinks Roundup is okay, and nobody is saying, hey guys, everybody who thinks Roundup is okay, Roundup is not okay. And now the UN has suggested that it's a probable carcinogen, and there have been a number of very, very expensive lawsuits for Monsanto, which is now owned by Bayer, the aspirin people. So they're hiding basically in a bigger company, 3 times a big company. But a lot of fines in the millions of dollars, in the billions of dollars, some of them, because people got lymphoma and other blood cancers from the use of Roundup. And it's obvious enough that they were awarded very, very big sums of money. But the point is, you go back to the beginning of it, that stuff was made in order to kill living things. Now, why are we going around killing living things? We define them as pests, which pests means what? They bother you, right? That's what pest, you're being a pest, right? You bother me, right? So, okay, I'm just going to kill you. Well, every time you walk down a path and there's a tree that you have to walk around, maybe you should just chop it down because it's in your way, because it's a pest. That's how stupid that is. And here we are the end product, the youngest end product of a very long process of development in nature, which is unbelievably well balanced. And we think we can just go in there with sledgehammers and make it work for us at the expense of the natural system. And then guess what? The climate changes, the trees are, we've cut down 7.5 trillion trees. The climate has changed. The critters that used to live in hot climates are now going north. The ones that used to live on the bottom of the mountain are going to the top of the mountain. So there are no safe zones from some of these insects and some of these microbes. And we've done that to ourselves. Because instead of staying in line with nature and enjoying and seeing nature as our friend, nature is the big house in which we build a little house, in which lives the littler house, right? Nature is the big house. And living in line with that big house, I don't mean jail, we call that the big house too, right? But nature is the really big house. And we are part of that, whether we're naked or not. We are just part of that. And living out our whole system of health, our genetic program, was made to live in line with nature, and only to live in line with nature on this planet. And when we get out of line with nature, things will go wrong by definition. So whenever somebody is sick, then you want to look at what in your habits and your environment is out of line with nature, and what do you need to get it back in line with nature. Now, if you apply that to architecture, there's a lot of changes that we need to be making.
Oh, yes.
Right? When you're talking about the architecture of the house, there are a lot of changes we need to be making. And definitely we don't want to be living our whole life in the house all the time. You know, if nothing else, you make the little place where you're safe, where you can sleep. But every day you spend some time outside in fresh air, in the sunshine, in nature as much as you can. You know, even there are people in Norway, I think it was, where I was reading, that when people are sick, they take them out of the city, take them into the woods, and have them hang out in the woods all day. Mm-hmm. And they get better. Gee.
Yeah.
And they get better, right?
Mm-hmm. So, and that brings me to that idea you're talking about, the house inside of the house. So when you're not happy, when you're not in that state of peace inside of you, a lot of people tend to go out and buy things to compensate that empty feeling, thinking that's going to make you feel happier. And that's when you make your house a place where it's so crowded with things that also brings that uneasy feeling, because you have so much stuff and so much clutter that brings you to that place of it's not an easy feeling to be in a place that's crowded, and you can clean very well, right?
Right. Yeah. It becomes the junk pile that you built out of your own discontent. Mm-hmm. Because if you're not going inside for your connection, for your contentment, then you're going to be looking outside and you say, well, I need a little more of this. Oh, no. Oh, I think if I do this, oh, if I just get this person, if I just trip him up, I think I will feel better. Mm-hmm. And of course, it doesn't work like that. It has never worked like that. Mm-hmm. It has never worked like that. You came complete. You came whole. You came fully loaded with everything you need. You have more than everything. Even if you spent 24/7 exploring the nature of your own being, you would never get to the end of how magnificent it is. Yeah. And because we don't do that, then we get disconnected. Out of that disconnect comes discontent. Out of that discontent comes negative thinking. Out of that negative thinking comes negative words. Out of negative words comes destructive actions. And out of destruction actions, they have destructive consequences. Mm-hmm. That's how it goes. But if you're content, out of that come content thoughts that lead to content words, or empowering words, or encouraging words that lead to positive actions, that lead to better outcomes. All based on just whether we connect or disconnect from ourselves.
Yeah. And I love that. And there's this big movement about decluttering. And I think from what you're saying, the clutter starts inside.
Actually, the clutter starts in our head, right? But the clutter comes from disconnect, which leads to, you could say, heartache or thirst of the heart, or leads to discontent or emptiness or restlessness or longing, blues if somebody dumped you. Sorrow, sadness, if something close, if you lose something close to you, feeling of loss, feeling of grief. Mm-hmm. Out of that comes the clutter. And why clutter? Because you can't just buy one thing and then you'll feel taken care of. No, it doesn't take care of you. It takes care of you for 3 seconds. Finally I got that car. Finally I got that vase. Finally I got that sofa, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And then after that, you feel empty again, because you can't fill inner emptiness with outside stuff. Yeah. So then you feel empty again and say, well, maybe it wasn't the couch I needed. Maybe I need a new boyfriend, right? And then you get the new boyfriend, and for a while it goes good, and then it evaporates because you're negative and they're probably negative too. And negative on negative creates the dump, right? So then you get dumped. Now you feel blue. You say, oh, well, it wasn't the boyfriend. Oh, I picked the wrong guy. So you pick a wrong guy. You pick or girl. So you pick somebody else. Oh, no, it's not guys. No, it's not Pete. No, maybe if I make more money, and then you say, well, let's see, how can I make more money? Well, I can always charge a little more than what it costs. It's called business, right? Oh, I think maybe I just need to raise my prices, make a little more profit, because I think if I have more money, then I will feel more content. And again, you say, okay, if I make $1 million, I'll feel content. A guy said that to me one time. And I said to him, no, you won't. He says, if I make $1 million, I'll be happy, he said. I said, no, you won't.
You won't.
He looked at me. He said, what the hell are you on about? I said, no, because when you make $1 million, if you make $1 million, you'll have 3 seconds or 3 days. Let's say 3 days. Let's be generous. You have 3 days. You say, yay, I did it. And then that feeling that you had that made you think I'd be happier if I had $1 million will be back. So now you say, well, either I wasn't thinking big enough or I was thinking in the wrong direction. So you pick a different goal, or you say, if I make $100 million, I'll be happy. And then if you make $100 million, you'll go, yay, I did it. And 3 days later, the letdown. I call it depression or the emptiness or, damn, that didn't do it either. Right? And I've actually talked to billionaires and I've told them how their life goes. And I've explained it this way. I say, okay, you begin every project with the conscious or subconscious hope that when you succeed, you will feel whole again. And when you succeed, you get those 3 days, and after that, you'll feel empty again. And it's simply because you're looking on the outside for something you can only find on the inside. And the moment you understand that and you do the work, the homework that you need to do to get in touch with where your wholeness lives in you, you are then free of the clutter in here that leads to the clutter in your house, that leads to the clutter in the whole world.
So, yeah, everything's so deep. Like everything you're saying is so, that connection is so deep and it's so real, so true.
Yeah.
One of the things that I know about you is that you had multiple chemical sensitivity, right? Or you developed at some point?
No.
What about, you said you got injured somehow from being exposed to pesticides? You kind of
I got poisoned by pesticides. I literally had cramps, nausea, dizziness, complete lack of energy. I was 38 years old, and if I walked around one city block, I had to rest. And it felt like when I turned my head, it felt like my head turned, but my brain didn't. Obviously, that's not what was going on, but that's what it felt like. So imagine turning your head and thinking your brain didn't turn. It's like, what?
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was your, when you were going through that, how was your internal well-being, your mindset, your beliefs when you were going through that stage where, because a lot of the people in the show are going through multiple chemical sensitivity. So they're experiencing symptoms, just like me, like you don't want to do anything. You just feel like totally like you have no energy, zero energy. How do you, what would be your suggestions for the listeners that are going through this right now to see a little bit more light in themselves and, help themselves?
Okay. So I'm going to tell you 2 little stories. First one is that when I was 17, my heart started to ache. Like I could feel it in my chest, and there was nothing wrong with me physically. And I couldn't shake that feeling. and I didn't know what it was. And I know what it is now. It's from the disconnect. It is your heart calling your attention to come back home to life. And that heartache began when you disconnected from yourself in the process of getting to know the world as a child. Because your awareness wandered from being present inside and absent outside to being present outside and absent inside. And it's the disconnect of your awareness from your wholeness inside that leads to that heartache. And you get back to it whenever you lose something. That's why that's why so many words for it: emptiness and longing and blues and heartache and sorrow and all of that. Anytime you lose something that you've put, that you want to hang on to, that you feel gives you some completion, anytime you lose it, you're back to your disconnection from yourself. And it's your heart calling your awareness to come back home to yourself. I had begun to do that when I was 30, so 8 years before I got poisoned. So I already had some ability to go there.
Mm-hmm.
What I would say to people who haven't gone there and don't have that, I would say this: no matter how sick you are physically or mentally, there's something in you a little deeper than your mind can go and not physical, that is not affected by whatever your problem is, whatever your trauma is, whatever your memories of your trauma are, whatever has gone wrong in your life. Actually, it's not in your life. Nothing goes wrong in your life. Whatever has gone wrong in your outside world or in your thinking capacity, something in you is beyond that. What is that? Inspiration, which comes out of life energy, and behind that is pure awareness. Even if you're sick, and not right now because we have forced inactivity because of Corona, spend that time doing nothing. Celebrate the fact that you don't have to be following your addiction. Break your addiction. Sit down. Get quiet. Like I said before, go to the stillness in you. Discover that in you that was not affected. And from that in you that was not affected, you can rebuild your entire life. Because if life can never get sick, then awareness of life will show you the steps you need to take to get healthy again. Because when you sit still, that's also where your insight comes from. Unbelievable, the amount of insight that is stored inside of human beings in their life. But we don't access it. We go to the experts. What are the experts? The experts are on television. The experts are all doing disease management, and they're not doing healthcare. So we go to the people who give us the wrong advice. Why aren't we asking life how we should live? Life knows how to live. Life is omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient in you. What does that mean? It knows everything, it's everywhere present, and it's all power within you. Why aren't we going to that, asking it to show us how to live, where to go, what to do? Instead, we listen to half-baked people on the outside and say, okay, he said that, so I'm going to do that, okay? And so we've become slaves to bad advice because we haven't done our homework. We need to do our homework. And the homework is always, every day, go back to yourself. Every day, spend some time. Make time, just like you make time for the bathroom, just like you make time for breakfast, just like you make time for sleep, just like you make time for the job. Make time every day to be with yourself doing nothing. Create light in your own being. You don't create it. Discover light in your own being and become the light in your own sphere of influence. And that's the transformation of the world.
Yeah.
It's nothing else that we need to do other than get in touch with what we already are in our essence. And let that be where we live from. Let that pick up the words. Let that determine what actions we do. Let that determine how we treat other people. Let that be, when I feel unbelievably good and taken care of, I don't just go around and chop trees down for fun or shoot things just to watch them die or have wars with people who are just trying to live too, or, or disagree with people just to be disagreeable because I'm out of touch, right? So the homework, this is the homework for everybody. This is not just homework for people who want to clean up their house. This is homework for everybody. And this is what, by the way, all the wise people have always said, whether they're babies who aren't crazy yet, who we haven't made crazy yet, or whether they're people who've lived long lives and are ready to die, or whether they were masters over times in different cultures, they have always said the same thing. What you're looking for, you already have. And where is it? It's inside of you. And how do you get to it? Take time to sit still, to tune in. They've all said that. We've done everything but. Oh, I'll do that later. And now we're getting in the world, we're getting to the place where we cannot not do that anymore. Because we're getting lots of pressure from everywhere. It's not working for the environment. It's not working for politics. It's not working for relationships. It's not working for health. It's not working for anybody. Something in us needs to shift. And all that requires is shifting our awareness inward. That's it. That's the whole problem. The whole problem was it shifted outward and we lost connection to inward. All we need to do is shift inward, and then we can be present inside and outside at the same time. And then we are living a connected life.
Yeah. Wow. This was actually I think it was so much towards me as a person. I don't know how to stop. And
I'm going to take over. Just about
tears are okay.
A little bit vulnerable, but I don't know how to stop.
Yeah.
I don't know how to take time to myself. I know how to take care of the house. I know.
No. You know how to take time to yourself.
I just don't do it. Right.
That's true. Yeah. And so you're making doing more important than being. Mm-hmm. But here's what's wrong with that. See, you can be without doing. Ouch. But you can't do without being. So guess what is more important? Being will always be more important than doing.
Yeah. Thank
you. And the moment you recognize that, just give the being a little more time. Do one thing less. Or you know what? Just sit still when you're on the toilet. You don't have to pay attention to what's going on. It's pretty much automatic, right? Mm-hmm. Just sit still, breathe. Now, breathing is already doing, but it gets you pretty close. Or sit with your heartache. Sit with that feeling that's uncomfortable, because it's your greatest gift other than being alive, because it's calling you home, and it will nag you all your life until you come home. Or you die. But when you die, you'll still come home. It's your awareness calling you home. Mm-hmm. And I've done talks on this thirst of the heart. I have never met a person who didn't know that feeling in their chest. They have lots of different words for it. They all know the feeling. Every human being on this planet knows that feeling. Hardly ever do we ever talk about it. Mm-hmm. But it's no different from hunger that makes food relevant. This ache makes quiet, makes stillness relevant, makes self-discovery relevant. The food is already inside. That is the hunger for the food. that you've been ignoring. That's getting cold.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah. I think I hope the listeners can, get in touch with themselves, with their own house. And this interview can be a tool. And I really appreciate you pouring all that knowledge towards us.
Yeah.
And Udo has an amazing gift that will help you guys, navigate through this and learn more on how to be in connection with your being. I'm going to let you explain what the gift is. He's giving you the Total Sexy Health.
Oh, Total Sexy Health it's called The Book on Total Sexy Health, the 8 Key Parts Designed by Nature. And so it talks about internal awareness, life energy, inspired creativity. Those are the 3 that get the least attention and need the most. Mm-hmm. Then it's physical body. Then it's survival smarts. We're pretty somewhat focused on those 2. Mm-hmm. Then it's social group. We're somewhat focused on that. Then it's nature, planet, solar system. And then it's big picture, which is the idea that this is a little body, temporary, in an infinite universe, and to be okay with that, and to be in touch. And to be in touch with all of them, to be fully present in all of your being and your surroundings, creates the cherished life. No matter what your external situations are, no matter what's going on politically, no matter whether your body's old or young, male or female, independent of race, gender, independent of culture and religion. I don't know what's... independent of anything is that. And so then there's a chapter on death, and a chapter on illness, and a chapter on mastery, and then a chapter on, okay, now that you know all this, what's next? Mm-hmm. So that's the e-version of the book on Total Sexy Health, the 8 Key Parts Designed by Nature. And basically what I've been talking about is all of that, in different ways, come at it from different angles, in response to different questions. Mm-hmm. When and what you do architecturally in your house with clutter and with toxins and with kitchen fumes and all of that is a part of that. It's to some extent, it's part of the environment. It's part of the food issues, because we do different things in the house. Mm-hmm. But if you know what the goal is for each one of those 8 areas, it's going to be a little easier to work towards them.
Right.
So, and then fundamentally, you can do it by yourself. You should try and do it by yourself. If you need help, then there are people who can help you. There are books, there are people, there are masters. Everything you need to take that journey exists on the planet. Mm-hmm. And it's not so much exactly how you get there, but that you get there mm-hmm. is the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even want to talk because I just want you to continue. And thank you, listeners. I really hope if you've listened to this whole thing so far and haven't checked out going, what are these guys talking about? We saw the value in our pre-interview talking with Udo, like this is the perfect moment to talk about these things right now, because let's just talk about the simple thing of cleaning up your home. As he said, if you're not in touch with your being before you go out and do those things in your home, it's probably not going to be as effective. And we're all at home. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and you're probably not going to do it. So the first place to clean up is inside.
Absolutely.
That's the point, right? That's why the little house in the big house, in the big house,
yeah.
Right? So it literally starts from within you outward.
Yeah.
What is magnificent in you will transform your house, your bigger house, into something that's magnificent, and your planet into something that's magnificent. And if you're not magnificent in your own being, then you're going to tear everything down, and you're going to misuse things, and you're going to lie and cheat and plunder and kill, right? Until everybody's dead. It's like,
yeah,
those are the options. And I think we're up against them. So this is why this is timely. And yes, we haven't done it for 200,000 years. It's time for a reset. This is the reset.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. Well, thank you so much, Udo. We really appreciate your time and all the knowledge that you shared with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me do this and for being an amplifier for the message.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for you, I'd be talking to myself in the mirror.
Hey, I would be your ears anytime.
Yeah, just turn on the phone or something so we can listen while you're doing it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Great words of wisdom. It's such
Right.
a timely piece. So thank you. What a gift, Udo. Seriously, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, it takes one to know one. Thank you.